You got a preference?
First one.
Bug in Texas. Thanks for waiting. You're on with Jim Helton and Matt Dillahunty on occasion.
Hey, nice to meet you. I'm kind of nervous. This is my first time on the show, but I've been listening to... Hello?
Yeah, you're here.
Oh, wow. Okay. I've been listening to the show for a long time now. I'm 28, and I'm 28 now, but I've had doubts about religion in general since I was like 16 and 17. So let me speed up. Okay, so my dad was a Muslim. My mom was a Christian. My dad was in prison for 13 years. He was a Muslim before he got in prison. So he didn't just become a Muslim because of prison. And my mom is the evangelist. My stepdad was a preacher. I played the drums in church. I've done the whole, like, go to church like 3 to 4 times a week thing, all that.
Yep.
What I wanted to talk to you about and ask you, dealing with religion, and I see you guys talk on this show every week, and the people that call, and I see that they're going to argue. I see what makes this easy for you, because all I see is people arguing from emotion and wanting there to be something magical there, because if there's not, that just means that life can suck sometimes, and you have to figure out a way to make it better yourself. It's more convenient feeling that there is some kind of magicalness or something more going on when I almost had a car wreck.
Yep.
And I didn't die in that car wreck. So it's easy for me to make that a reason for me to believe it.
I suspect that you are correct that this is quite often the case, but it's very difficult to prove. But yes, I would say that's a fairly accurate assessment of some, I don't know, I think Jim's on board with that.
I'm sorry. Okay, let me get to more of a point, because I'm kind of rambling. So,
yeah, no worries.
Okay, so the reason why I want to talk to you so bad is because you speak really unbiasedly, and I see that a lot of times you will even find yourself defending the Christian side, and and that's what actually got me way back when I was like 18. I've been like watching this show. What got me was when you were arguing with them, you could easily tell they were arguing from emotion and just wanting to counter what you were saying instead of listening to what you were saying. And you were actually helping them give a better argument than what they could have gave from the start. And when I saw that, I'm saying he legitimately wants an actual answer. He doesn't just want something that gives him a warm fuzzy. And me growing up in the South, I'm originally from Arkansas, but I moved to Texas from Mississippi because I lived in Mississippi for quite a while. I grew up basically in Mississippi. So I know what you mean about the Baptist church and the Bible Belt and all that type of stuff. And the problem, and it's not like I'm a scientist or I study or anything, but I'm black, if you haven't figured out. So black people are...
Oh, my gosh. I thought it disconnected, and I was like, somebody's going to pull that clip out. Dude says he's black, and hosts hang up on him. So I'm so glad you're still here.
No, because I'm trying to stay on track. So
no, the phone went quiet for a second. We're good. Go ahead, Bug.
When people call into the show and you're countering with them, it's so easy because you legitimately want a real answer, and those people aren't saying that they disagree with you because what you said doesn't make sense. They disagree with it because if they agree, then they know that they don't make sense in their head. They're not making sense. Yeah, so it's like, is it all just emotions and us being so arrogant and smart that we don't have a fucking answer? We have to just make one, and God can just be plugged in anywhere. Is that all it is?
Go ahead, Jim.
Is it just arrogance?
I don't think that's all it is. I don't think there's any simple, here's the one answer for why we have these ideas. I think religions have built themselves up to offer comfort or the illusion of comfort, to get rid of some of the things that we're afraid of or ease those fears, while also instilling new fears and providing the one and only solution. Is it emotional? Yes. Is it personal? Yes. But I know plenty of incredibly intelligent theists who think that they have rock-solid, science-based arguments for God. When you point out the problems with those, they don't always retreat back to emotion or faith, although some of them do. Some of them just have whatever intellectual roadblock that makes them say, no, this must be the more probable answer. Like the guy I was talking with last night on a podcast was arguing for the improbability of something. And I gave him an example that demonstrated that things weren't as improbable as he thought. This, coin flipping thing, which I know I talked about before the show. I don't think I talked. Did I talk about it on the show?
Yep.
Okay. So the coin toss thing, and that was a good example that kind of stalled that. Now, where's he going to go from there? Well, I don't know. And when we're talking about people making arguments from probability, the question I keep asking is, how did you determine how probable God is as an explanation? If my house is on fire and we make a list of potential causes, I left a gas can in the garage in Texas. Don't do that. I had some faulty wiring. Somebody intentionally set it. Whatever. You make a list of all these and you calculate the probability. And how you know the probability is based on past experience. How many houses have caught fire because of this? And what signs would we look for that? If it was wiring, how do we find the origin? But let's say we have the best.
I'm sorry.
Let's say we have the best fire investigator, and he comes into my house and he goes, "Yep, there's the point of origin right there. Here's all the science shows it, and it's this point of origin, and it's directly behind that outlet. So I'm going to conclude that the most reasonable explanation is that there was a wiring fault right there, and that started the fire." Somebody else could say, "Nope, God started a fire directly behind that outlet." And I think that's more probable because I believe that God exists and God can do anything, and electrical circuits can't do anything or can't do everything. And so that makes it a much more probable explanation. And if you use flawed reasoning like that, somebody's going to go, yeah. Now, we don't tend to do that for fires because we have a better understanding for fires than we do for the diversity of life and the origin of the universe and what happens after you die. And so people stick God into those gaps in our knowledge.
We have to be careful making the claim that all people think this of emotion, because we don't know what all people think. They come at this from very different perspectives. Do a lot of people, like you said, come at this motion? Yes, a lot do. Do they insert God when they don't know? Yes, a lot of people do those things. But like Matt said, some people come at this intellectually and they truly believe or think these things, but that doesn't make them true.
I've debated Blake Gentle like 5 or 6 times, and we're friendly. He's been over the house. I like Blake. I don't think he's doing it primarily from emotion. I won't say that emotion doesn't play a part in it, because I wouldn't say that emotion doesn't play a part in my views. Of course it does. We're emotional creatures. It's just when you should strive to take the most unbiased approach you can. And in Blake's case, he's really fond of Bayes' theorem for analysis. And another video I'm going to be doing in the near future is why Bayes' theorem doesn't have any application in the question of gods or supernatural or single occurrence events.
Okay, but real quick, I just the reason I guess I'm coming, I base that off of my personal experience, so I say emotion because just from my experience, what led me to even question it in the first place and really not fear hell or fear burning in a lake of fire for eternity or whatever they're going to do if it doesn't exist.
Sure.
What really kept me from being scared of it and really not caring anymore, because I grew up watching my mom's life, and my mom, like I said, she's an evangelist, and that's why I just use the name Bug or whatever it is. It's a different name, but my mom had a really hard life, and I've only been basically with her most of the time because my stepdad that was a preacher, he was shit anyway, and real dad, we had a relationship over the phone and through letters, but I never met. My first time meeting him in real life was at his funeral, so I never ever met him like in real life, but we got to actually talk. But what made me not give a shit that if God exists or not is when you hear people talk about there being a plan and there being a reason for everything.
Yeah.
That sounds like the most laziest, easiest bullshit I've ever heard, because if it's all a part of a plan and this is all some kind of like watch or something in motion that everything happens for a reason. My mom is like 60 now, and I know there are things that she's wished she's always had. I want to give to her, and I've known her my whole life and watched her my whole life, crying and stuff. And like, my mom wakes up to this day now 6:00 a.m. and prays every single morning, no matter what day it is. Period. She wakes up at 6:00 and she prays, and she speaks in tongues, and she cries, and she really believes all that in her heart. And that hurt me, that the kind of life I thought I'd have, like, because I'm fine now. I live in Arlington, Texas now. I have a pretty good job. I'm not struggling for money or anything. I play Xbox Live every day. I have friends. Like, life is fine, but
that was God's plan for you.
God. Yeah, fuck you, God.
That's the thing. This whole notion of a plan is bizarre.
Yeah.
My plan for your family is for you to have 4 miscarriages, then have a kid that survives only to die at the age of 2, because that will make you stronger. And I need more little, toddlers up in heaven. My plan for you is for you to be, president. But
let me tell you something, man.
Absolutely.
My aunt has cancer right now. My sister just got diagnosed with cancer about 3 or 4 months ago, and it was stage 2 when they found out about it. And when she, no, I'm lying. It was stage 1 when they found out about it, and it's a little personal, but it's in her breast, so it spreads faster in like the ducts. So it went from a stage 1 to like a stage 3 super fast, and she has to go through chemo to get the surgery because they can't just cut it out. So she's like lost all her hair now and stuff, and she's all really depressed. And I'm just like, you know what? That's a fucking plan. That's like, and then I have my niece, I have my nephew. My nephew stays with me now. He's in there on my couch right now. My mom is back home, but she's gonna have to end up moving here because we don't have anybody to watch the kids. But anyway, long story short, people coming up to other people and saying that it's all part of a plan. That's just basically saying, we don't really have an answer for it.
Yep.
And
I'm sorry you're hurting, and I don't know what to say, but let's see if I can put a positive spin on it.
It's like,
I can say that if this was God's plan, God's kind of a fuck up.
Yeah. It's for people listening that are Christians. I was a Christian a long time. I didn't curse. I was probably the most culture Christian black guy you ever met. I was really depressed at that time because I really didn't. I wanted a reasoning for why things were being bad. When I realized you have to make your life and make things better for you, you control that. You control your work ethic, whether you get up or not in the morning. If you believe in God, I tell you what, don't put in job applications. Just pray about it. Don't put in any job applications. Just pray that somebody calls you to give you a job.
And then even if you do get a job, that still doesn't prove that a God got it for you.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I got to let you go, Bug. We got one more call I got to try to get to before we close this out. But yeah, thank you.
Last one I'm looking forward to. It's about kids.
Yeah, and that's why I want to make sure we got to it. One thing about this whole plan thing is that it's. One time at an event, somebody asked me, well, which model, the Christian model or the atheist model, is more appealing or more comforting? And I was like, well, it doesn't matter because I care about which one's true, not which one's more appealing. But if you want to know the truth, I find this one far more appealing. And it's like, if you believe in karma, or if you believe that God has a plan, then when bad things happen to you, it's because you deserved it or you needed it. And now in my life, when bad things happen, it's because the universe doesn't give a shit about me, and it's up to me to make sure that I'm taking care of me. That was as straightforward as we could get. Is it Icha in Georgia?
Icha.
Hi, Icha. You're on with Matt and Jim, and we're going to let Jim finish out the show with an answer to your question or issue.
Thank you. Hi, Jim. Hi, Matt. I've been listening to the show since recently. I want to give you a little bit of a background on myself. I'm from Honduras originally, and I moved to the States a year and a half ago.
Well, welcome. Glad you made it past that wall.
Yeah, we're on an investor's visa. And I come from a very religious country and a very religious society. But fortunately, unlike many of the callers I've heard, my family was not religious, and it was never an obligation in my family to be religious.
Right.
So I've been an atheist since I can remember, maybe since I was 12 or 13, that I thought that things just didn't add up, and it wasn't logical. And my mind functions in a logical way.
How old are your kids?
They're 8, and they're twins. And I moved to Georgia, and they are starting to ask about Mass and church.
Okay,
and
Catholic Mass, not math. Okay. I was like, 8-year-olds asking about math? Good for them. Mass, maybe not so good.
Yeah, Mass and why other kids go to Mass and why they don't. And it's very hard for me to explain it to them because they're still in school and they're 8. They're twins. And it's the exact age that they start to tell people about what they know and what they believe. And the thing I'm most afraid of is that since I live in a community where people do go to church, that they will be alienated within the community.
This is a big deal. I'm gonna let Jim address this.
I think you should tell your kids the truth. They can handle the truth. And how you choose to go about that and how your kids choose. And I would honestly say what they choose to do, it should be their choice as long as you, as a parent, let them be aware of the consequences of their actions. I had this conversation with my son in grade school when he was in grade school. He wore a shirt to school that said, "We'll convert for evidence," in grade school. We let him know the consequences of his actions, that, teachers could look at him different. Kids could do this. He was like, "I am not going to hide." He has handled it very well. My daughter at the time chose not to be upfront, not to talk, and it was her choice.
And that's perfectly acceptable as well.
Yes. And come full circle, now that she's 14, she's speaking all the country as an open atheist. Meaning, I try not to protect my kids. I let them know the consequences of their actions. You should tell them the truth and let them know, hey, if you talk about these things, here could be the reaction.
There are some friends that you may not be allowed to play with at some point.
And they did. But at the same time, when we moved to our subdivision and they came out and said, "I'm an atheist," people are like, "I'm so glad you're an atheist. We thought we were the only one." And they were like, "There's 5 atheists on this street. You've been playing with each other for 6 years and no one knew because no one would say anything."
Yeah. It's one of those things where...
That's how I feel. Like I'm still in the closet in some way, not with my family, but with society. And
well, there was a slight assumption here that your kids were non-believers as well. We didn't actually discuss. Yeah. The big thing is if they're curious about why you don't go to church, what Jim's saying is true. You can be honest with your kids about what you believe, and you can just explain. There are some people who believe these things, and they participate in these activities, and I don't share that belief, and that's why I don't. You're going to have to, study this and make up your own mind at some point, because I don't want to do what other parents are doing, which is saying, because I'm Catholic, my kids are Catholic, or because I'm Jewish, my kids are Jewish, or because I'm a Hindu, my kids are Hindu. Instead, I don't believe any of that. I would like for you to go out and explore, and if you find out that I'm wrong, and you have good reason for it, come back and tell me. And if you wind up agreeing with me, that's great, but I love you, you're my kids. And just be aware, as Jim was pointing out, that, what you do and say about all this is going to have consequences. It's one of the reasons why I have such a problem with the Boy Scouts, is that not only do they end up benefiting from public funds, but they march into a school and they have access to these kids and hype it all up as if it's fun, and some of these kids join. And what if your best friend joins the Cub Scouts, and you can't because Cub Scouts won't allow atheists to join? Boy Scouts will now allow girls because the Girl Scouts were awesome and outshining the Boy Scouts at every turn. And hopefully, I'm optimistic that eventually the Boy Scouts will also allow atheists, and then we can have scouting without having to create Scouting for All and all these other secondary organizations. But I don't have kids, but love your kids, talk to your kids, be honest with them, be supportive of them, realize that, you were imperfect and flawed, and so are they, and you probably screwed them up, because that's what every parent does a little bit. And, when the bad things happen, when they lose a friend because there's a disagreement about religion, talking to them about how to handle it and whether or not that friendship is worth making an effort to salvage, or whether it's just one of those things where some people aren't going to agree and that's going to be sad, but wouldn't you rather be surrounded with and have friends who are going to accept you for who you are and not expect you to change to adopt their beliefs?
Okay, yeah, that sounds like something that makes sense.
It's something we should tell to adults too with regard to family. Jen Peoples has been saying for years that your family, if you act like family, and that the blood relationship has nothing to do with it. I have people who I'm not blood related to in any close sense, apart from we're all humans, who are far more family to me than members of my immediate family are. And I'm okay with that. Yes, it makes me sad. I've lost friends, I've lost family members and relationships that I won't reconnect with. But if the loss was because they were expecting me to be what they wanted me to be, I'm better off without them.
But I think it's a bad message to send your kids to be afraid of who you are.
Right.
You know, let them know, tell them the truth, have these honest conversations. And again, let them know the consequences of their actions, and they will decide if it's appropriate. Do they want to tell people they're an atheist? Or do they want to tell people they're not religious? Or do they just want to play and not even address it and walk away?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Yeah.
It's none of your business. It's between me and whatever God I do or don't believe in.
But letting your kids make those decisions and having those conversations, I have some of the best conversations with my kids as they were growing up talking about these things when they would come back to school and how they handled it, and did it go well, and was it no big deal, or was it a big deal, and what were they going to do about it? Like it's a good, don't be afraid of the conversation with your kids. You should be excited to have these conversations.
It's also worth pointing out that if your kids are also non-believers, that you can do that wrong. That if you're the atheist marching into school to tell all of your little friends how stupid they are for believing in, fairy tales like God, you're probably making a big mistake.
Yeah.
On that note, Aicha, I got to let you go because we're way over time. I want to thank you for your call.
Well, thank you. And thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.